Yes, I'm sorry, Robert, I didn't realize that you were teaching in Beijing today.
That's okay.
No, I wound up going to the service at Corny, but it was most unpleasant because it was very hot, and there's also loud music in the building next door.
I heard that. Yeah.
But so I just decided I'm leaving. I didn't feel comfortable, so I packed my stuff and came into the sanctuary. And I got to hear the bar mitzvah speak, and he did a beautiful job.
Good.
And then they had this presentation afterward because he's the last in the family.
Oh, yeah.
That they're bringing this in about. I had just learned this year in studying from the text about the notion of, Shema Yisrael is being said by Jacob's children to him. I never heard that before. And that's the essential part of what's going on in this presentation that's been revised to add that into the list. It's very nice to see it brought out in that way.
Yeah.
Very well done.
Yeah, Rabbi Chorny came up with a nice ritual for that. And I think people are finding it very meaningful.
It's nice to get there was a woman named Amy, and her daughter is Ariel, and they lived next to the Pretzkins, and she just had her bar mitzvah. And I was able to share with her that Ariel was one of the names of Jerusalem, and she wasn't aware of that. And it says from Isaiah, I don't know where you can Google it or something. And she was delighted to hear it because she loves Jerusalem, and she and her family go all the time, and a lot of people there. And they live right next to the Pretzkis, and the mitzvah lives on that same area. So it's very nice to connect with people that I would normally not connect with whatsoever.
Yeah.
And very pleasant.
I'm glad. Missed you in here, but I'm glad that happened.
I'm looking for a recommendation of where to buy a new pair of sneakers. I got a pair at Target. They've been the most comfortable shoes I've worn in a long time. Nope, they've got their own pads. In fact, I'm wearing them right now. What kind is it?
Hey, Robert. Shabbat shalom.
Cheap. I know that. But in about, I don't know what it is, whatever they've got in the brand. I don't know what it was, whatever they had at Target. Hi, Robert. I love Target.
Shabbos, Robert.
Shalom.
Shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom, Tybal. We're still waiting for a minion here.
I find it off Broadway and Sunset. It's near right across the street, almost from Hollywood.
Oh, I can unmute. Good Shabbos and Chodesh Tov.
Chodesh Tov and good Shabbos, Tybal.
Big Five also, I've got there.
Big Five has the best selection of things that you can do. I always thought of them as like a little too cheap. They fit you. That's why I asked you. Big Five is easier.
Big Five often has just last year's model, but that doesn't mean it's cheap.
I
It's
could
just
care less about that.
exactly. That's what I mean.
I don't look like a fashion.
No, that's what I mean. Because they have a lot of the same brands, but it's last year.
Well, there's two right there. Targets that somebody see. We can come to the solve all your problems.
That's right. Isn't that right, Rabbi? Isn't that when you ask people to come to you, solve all their problems?
What's that?
You come to the Minyan, we solve all
Shoes, everything. Shoes. Leave tomorrow.
All the really
How long are you gone for?
We come back a week from Friday. Toda. Excited.
Sorry, where are you going?
The shul trip to the Balkans.
Oh, that's this coming week? I
Yeah.
didn't realize it was right now.
Some of them are already there. Some people went early, and Avi Peretz, amongst others, in the back rack, spent Shabbat in Sofia. So they're going to have been there for a couple of days, which means they'll be over jet lag. So I'll be envious of them. It's a lot of hours.
How many stops do you have to make to get to Sofia?
Just one, Amsterdam. But it's a very quick connection. It's a 1 hour connection. So it makes me a little bit nervous, on a different airline. So I hope that everything will work out.
Well, if not, there's always another flight.
Yeah, but not to Sofia. I think if we don't make that, it's a day. There's one flight a day from Amsterdam to Sofia in Air Bulgaria, and you'll make that one.
Well, there are worse things than spending time in Amsterdam.
That's true.
Say, but I don't want to be too. It may not be ideal.
That's true.
Oh, I love that. I only went when I was 20, but I loved it. You know, when you go, well, you know, he does such a good job in English. Just close your eyes and because it's.
I'm gonna praise my beautiful Sal Tomato also. Beautiful, where is it? Like kind of, all the lips moved, but I didn't have anything to drink.
Well, we're past time. This is a slim crowd tonight. We'll wait a few more minutes and see if there's a late arrival.
And it's always ironic when you get a group of people come instead of like at 6:40, they'll come at 7:00.
I wasn't here last Shabbat. Was there Minha last Shabbat?
Yes.
I wasn't.
Because of the broom plant.
The brawn.
That's why I'm getting part of it. Yeah, I remember vividly because it was, you know, one of those discussions below with the wonderful England Marsha about pure which I didn't say a single word.
You're allowed to say you understand. It's hard to understand.
I'm a simple guy. Don't need big words.
Shabbat shalom. Shalom. Go fishing for a minion on La Cienega.
That sounds as if it could be a country music song.
Number 8 is here.
Yeah.
9. Whoa.
Hey Ed. Shabbat shalom.
We need at least one Jewish security guard on this call.
9.
Good to see you.
And Leah's right behind you. And Julie's right behind you.
That'd be a surprise for all of us.
9 is worse than 8. Just gotta say.
I know, it's just.
9 is like.
All right, I'll go home.
Let me stop horseshoes. Yeah. Well, I know you don't hold by, but there's some rabbis who hold, you know, 10th is God and 10th is the Torah.
10th is God, 9th is the Torah, 8th is the Siddur, 7 is the table, 6 is the Chumash, 5 is the Cholent.
Give the credit to the soldiers. I always felt like.
Spread around, so. Is there a song like that?
Yes.
Wrong season.
The wrong season? Silverstein always used to speak of his father, Silverstein, who always knew that the bartender down the street was actually Jewish. In a pinch. So clearly what we need is more bars.
We need more bars.
Yeah.
Yes.
You see, Heather, so the lecture she gave me, why should get every minute. Delicate. You're not the other Heather, not my wife. No, not your wife. And it wouldn't have been a bad lecture, except it was the middle of the Soyev service.
Any Jews out there, Eric? The bathrooms are broken. Downstairs. Or downstairs or gym. Tybal and Marshall, we're waiting for one more in the room. So we're hanging out at 9. We're not supposed to count Jews, but we're hanging out at 9.
But Rabbi, I thought given how musical you were also writing a country music song because it sounded like a country music title, Fishing for Jews on La Cienega.
Yeah. Well, that'll be my next career. There are definitely Jews in La Cienega. The question is, will they deign to come in? Should I go schlep Alan Weinstock out of bed?
Just put aside a free coffee or something. Those top word English language. You want me to go get it?
That's first and the second.
Not the worst idea in the world.
I have worse.
I will go if you ask me to.
We're also going to run out of time for Mincha.
How much time do we have?
Actually, no, we have some time for Mincha.
I will see if I will round out.
Okay. We're starting with the class. That's what we're going to do?
It's like he's offering. Tell people when I talk to him, I gotta give it what they say.
All right, so I guess we're going to reverse things and hope a minion comes by Mincha. So if you're in the room, take some food for Zudash Lishik. We'll do a little learning of that, and then we'll do, maybe as soon as a minion comes, so we don't miss the time for Mincha, we'll pause what we're doing, do Mincha, and I'll go back to it. So if you're hungry, and even if you're not hungry, go get some food, and we'll start the teaching. The text sheet was available on the second Shabbat email that went out yesterday, so hopefully those of you on Zoom have it. What's that? Please, yes, take. Yeah, so we'll now give a few minutes for people to take some food. I'm going to actually get something to drink, and then we'll start the teaching.
I would never go up if the rabbi didn't say. This is a really long time if you think about it. I was so tired when I got home today due to the heat. I took my normal Shabbat nap an hour and a half earlier today.
I had come across a book. It's called Between Jerusalem and Benares by Hanya Goldman
Between Jerusalem and
Benares. Benares, that's the old university in India. So basically Hinduism and Judaism.
Wow.
And so I read the book yesterday on Monday, and it was interesting.
I've not heard of it. So the connection between Hinduism and Judaism?
Yeah.
Interesting. No, that I've not heard of.
Another book by, it's called Veda and Torah by Barbara Hedges.
Hmm.
I'm interested in the connection between.
Ancient wisdoms.
Anything else there?
I hear Alan. Does that mean there's a minion?
Look at that.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. First, I went, into Michelle and Danny,
Yeah.
and
Hey,
they're here, and then who else comes after them? but
Sandra.
Sandra?
Wow. All right.
So we're eating curse, is that?
Well, we started to eat on your suggestion to do mincha to do the learning first. So since the food is out, we'll start the learning, and then we'll
I
we'll
don't
make.
remember that as my suggestion. Whatever it is.
Hi Michelle. Hi Danny. How are you? Danny. Okay. So we're gonna get started. Maybe we'll do the teaching in two parts so that we don't lose the window for mincha. It'll be a cliffhanger. We'll have no idea how it ends. Next week is the second double parsha in a row. We had Tazria Matzorah today, and then next week Achrei Mod Kadoshim. And I wanted to focus on a 2-verse section of Parshat Kadoshim, but mostly on the first of the 2 verses. And I'm going to start out by saying that people rarely like to be reprimanded. Under almost all circumstances, right? It happens so often that we still don't like it, right? I think there are people who like to present themselves as if they don't mind reprimand. And I think there are people who are good at receiving reprimand. And I think there are people who are good at giving reprimand. I'm not sure there are a whole lot of people who actually like it. I think they might find a way to stay grounded and stay humble when receiving it. But it's not an easy thing either to receive the news that you're not acting as you should be acting. And I think it's not an easy thing to tell someone that they're not acting as they should be acting. And yet, as we're going to see in a second, it happens to be, hey Tom, it happens to be a core Jewish idea, but probably not in the way it's usually done. Meaning, usually the way reprimand is done in the Jewish tradition, in a shul community. Hi, Sean. Is less than what the Torah had in mind. But let's start with it. There are more sheets up here. I'll put them on the table. 1 second. We went from no minion to standing room only. We're gonna be turning people away at the door. Okay, so Vayikra, for those who just came in, we're starting the learning now, and then we'll pause for mincha because we didn't have a minion to start mincha, and then we'll go back to the learning. Vayikra Yotet Pasuk Yud Zayin. I want you to read this verse. I'm going to help you with it in the Hebrew, and try to understand the pshat of the pshat, meaning without thinking wild theories, just deep in your understanding of the words, what is the main information, the main learning that this verse in the Torah is asking us to live by? Okay. For some reason, the Hebrew came out strangely in the first quote, so there's some pauses where there shouldn't be pauses. Lo tisna et achicha bilvavecha. The word tisna means hate. Do not hate et achicha, your brother, your fellow. So it's masculine here, but I don't think it means specifically a brother. I think it means a fellow sojourner in your community. Bilvavecha, in your heart. Okay. Lo tisna et achicha bilvavecha. That's phrase 1. Hocheach tochiach et amitecha. You have a verb doubled. When a verb is doubled like that, hocheach tochiach, like the second paragraph of the Shema, ve'aya im shemoa tishma. Sometimes you'll see it translated in Old English translations as verily, right? It's an emphasis, right? And you shall certainly hocheach your amit, right? Hocheach is related to the word tochacha, which means a rebuke or a recrimination. You might be aware that there are 2 parashot of the year, Parshat Bechukotai and Parshat Kitavo, where the laner reads the verses very quickly and very soft because we're reading that the God is rebuking the Israelites for all the sins they're going to do in the land of Israel. That's called the tochacha, right? From this verb, hocheach, tochiach, amitecha. Amitecha is similar to amcha. You shall verily rebuke a member of your nation, okay? And then, velo tisa alav chet. Vavs in the Torah are pluripotent. They can mean and, they can also mean but, they can also mean rather. And it's unclear if this should be translated as rebuke your fellow and, kind of an implied therefore, don't bear any guilt on that person's account. Or it might be understood as a but. Rebuke your fellow, but don't bear any sin on his or her account. Lo tisa alav chet. Literally, don't carry upon that person a sin. Okay, there are 3 subclauses of this verse. They may just go ABC. They may go AB semicolon C. We don't know if the C is a doubling down of what you're not supposed to do, or is it somehow the result of doing B the wrong way? Let me ask you in the room, we should actually have a microphone going around. What do you think is the main information that should be understood from this verse? If you're speaking, speak into the mic. Who's speaking first? Who's got a thought? Everyone is put to sleep by the tuna fish. With that, okay, I'll repeat it, Sandra, yeah.
Okay. That rebuking your fellow somehow is related to not hating your brother.
Okay, so the first thing Sandra said is, maybe this is not just a random list, maybe this is all of a theme. That somehow, you might think the opposite, that rebuking someone is an expression of hate, right? If you yell at someone, in common parlance, that means that you don't have a high feeling about the person. But maybe by the Torah's linking together part A and part B of the 3-part verse, don't hate your brother. One of the ways in which you show non-hatred towards your brother is putting him or her back on the right track, right? Don't feel so heavy about offering rebuke. It's an expression of the opposite of hate. And what is another word for articulating the opposite of hate? Love, right? Like it might even be the Torah's way of saying, how is it, instead of saying, I don't hold hatred in my heart and therefore I'm just not going to get involved. I'm not going to tell the person doing wrong. Since I don't have hatred in my heart for you, I need to tell you you're doing something wrong. That's my way of expressing to you that I don't hate you. If I hated you, I would let you continue in your wayward ways, but I don't hate you. Interesting possibility. What else do you tease out of this, Marshall?
At the end of the sentence, I don't know what the word alav means or to what it refers. Does it refer to the first part, lo tisna et achicha bilvavecha, or does it refer to hocheach tochiach et amitecha?
Yeah, the alav is an interesting word. It's a preposition, a male singular preposition. It seems to be related to this verb lo tisa, do not bear, something like on that person's account. That's how it's normally translated. That don't carry chet, don't carry sin because of that person. Is it because of what that person does, right? You might say, this is why some people translate it as an and, rebuke your fellow so that the person doesn't sin and you're carrying the responsibility because you could have stopped the sinning, right? Rebuke them, and therefore you're not going to be responsible for that person's sin. But it can also be understood as a but. Yes, rebuke that person, but don't let somehow the rebuke end up on your shoulders as that person's sin. And we'll look at some of the commentaries in a second. Irv or Marshall?
I saw Rabbi Tarfon saying a very
what I agree with. I would be surprised if there's anyone in this generation who can receive rebuke. And
Are
my
you
case,
jumping ahead again?
did I
you
do that?
Are you jumping ahead? Did
Well,
I give you
read-
permission for that?
No, actually, it's beschert that I would find that, because the second best-selling book after the Bible is How to Win Friends and Influence People. And this really struck me. Right in the beginning is criticism never works because the person, it doesn't work.
Right.
They don't reform. All they do is get pissed off. And so me and Rabbi Tarfon and the Bible are now in sync. Thank you, Rabbi.
We're going to get to Rabbi Tarfo in a second. At face value, it seems a common, uncomplicated obligation the Torah is putting upon us to not hold hatred in our heart for people that we love, to rebuke them if they're doing something wrong, and somehow spare ourselves from holding their sin. Michelle, can you give Michelle the microphone?
Well, I think what it's saying is that one way to not hate your brother is to rebuke them when you see them doing something wrong. Otherwise, you just carry around, you're mad and you're pissed off. But if you rebuke them, at least you vented and you've told them what you think.
Correct. There's a scene, I grew up in the 80s, and so I grew up on all the John Hughes movies. There's a scene in Breakfast Club where the character played by Ali Sheedy, right? They're all going about all the things their parents do to them, right? So the character played by Judd Hirsch, he beats them up and he burns them, whatever. And Ali Sheedy is a very odd character, and they say, what your parents do to you, right? And they hurt you, no, they yell at you. I'm not getting the exact language. And she says in a very emotional way, they ignore me, right? As if the worst thing you could do is not to be on someone's back and tell them doing something wrong, but to evince no care whatsoever, right? If you're not rebuking, it means you have no care about what that person does or doesn't do in his or her life. Yes, Marshall?
When I said that I didn't understand the word alav, I trying to look at the way the sentence is put together, that after the word bilvavecha, there's an edach ta, which is a pausal form. But then we have amitecha lo tisa alav chet, which it seems to me is like a second part of the whole thing. And I thought maybe that the word alav really referred to ma'ases shel hochacha, an act of hochacha.
Mm-hmm. That in the act of giving rebuke, don't bear guilt. Yeah. So we're going to see a commentary in a bit that gets close to that. Let's look at the Talmud for a second. Was your hand up? Oh, Tom. By the time we get the microphone to you. But
Thank you. I was going to say I have a question, but not an answer about why it's a bilavav vecha. Why is it in your heart? Don't hate your brother in your heart. Well, I mean, you could have the sentence without the heart.
Correct.
And so how does that change it?
Perfect segue, as if you wrote Masechet Arachin. Now, we're looking at a piece of Talmud from Masechet Arachin. I'll tell you something very interesting. However much you all know about the Talmud, it's a very, 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 very long book. I did a text study this morning on Parshat Tazria Matzorah. And in putting together the text, I came across, medieval sources, Talmudic sources, and I pulled a source that happened to be from Masechet Arachin on the same side of the same page as this on totally different topics. So I will be teaching from Masechet Arachin, page 16b, twice in one day on two different parshas on two different topics. Okay, Tanu Rabbanan, the rabbis taught. That's a technical term in the Talmud saying that the rabbis are invoking a source from the Tannaitic period, from the early rabbinic period, but a period that was a text that did not appear in the Mishnah. Lo tisna et achicha bilvavecha. What does it mean to say you shall not hate your fellow in your heart? Asking, well, it'll be clear that they're asking the same question Tom asked. Yachol lo yakenu. Yachol is a technical term. Yachol literally means able to, but what the Talmud means yachol is, could we possibly understand this verse to mean that you are not supposed to hit the person? Lo yastirenu. Yistarenu, or could it mean that we're not supposed to slap the person? Lo yikalkalenu, could it mean that you're not supposed to? It's hard to translate this. Likalkel means to ruin, some kind of a physical ruining of the person. Meaning, am I supposed to understand that the only thing that I'm adjured not to do by this verse is not to express hatred? Because you can imagine that, right? Don't express hatred to a friend. But what is it? So meaning, and how would you express hatred? By being physical, by hurting them, by being mean to them. And the Talmud says, Talmud Lomar, the verse says, Bil vavecha, in your heart. Sin'a shebalev hakatuv medaber. The Torah is saying that, is he okay? Michelle's here, right? Yeah. No, it's fine. I just want to make sure it's okay. I'm not asking you to leave. I'm just making sure it's okay.
No, let me just.
Okay. So the Talmud's answer is that the word bilvavecha makes this a harsher or a more, what's the word? A more stringent mitzvah. It's one thing to say, don't hit someone hatefully. All right, so I hate the person. I'm not going to act on it. No. Bilvavecha. You're not even allowed to hold hatred in your heart. It is one of the very few places in Talmudic understanding of law that you can sin without an act. Right? In the same way, there are a few places where you can do a mitzvah without an act, right? V'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha, right? Love the Lord your God. What's the act of love? Well, some people say that the rest of V'ahavta tells you the act of love is putting on tefillin. The act of love is kissing the mezuzah. But the notion of commanding a feeling is an interesting thing because it's hard to legislate a feeling. Here, it's legislating not to have a feeling, right? Don't think of pink elephants. Don't hate your brother. Very hard to do. I would like to think that most of us, most of the time, are pretty good at not acting hatefully. Most of us fail every day in some way in the obligation to not feel hatred. Very hard to do. Okay, look at the next source, and I think after the next source we'll pause for Mincha because I don't want to miss the opportunity to do Mincha. This is just later on on that page. Minayin lero'eh b'chavero. By the way, this is a very Talmudic way of understanding it. They're trying to make sense of each phrase and subphrase so that nothing goes to waste, right? Every phrase meant something in determining what the law was. Minayin lero'eh b'chavero davar meguneh shechayav l'chochicho. How do we know that if you see in your friend something unseemly, it doesn't mean that they like something physical unseemly, like they're doing something or they're saying something that shouldn't be said, that you are obligated to rebuke that person? Shnei amar, from our verse. It says, Hocheach tochiach, you shall verily rebuke them. Hochicho velo kibel. Let's say I told the person, stop doing that. And they didn't listen. They didn't pay attention. Minayin sheyachzor v'yochichenu. How do I know that I'm supposed to go back and do it again? Talmud Lomar, because the verse says tochiach. If the verse had just said hocheach, rebuke your fellow, I would have said the obligation is do it once and you've absolved yourself. But because it's that word verily I used before, because it says hocheach tochiach, if I notice that Eric is doing something wrong, he never does anything wrong, and I tell him he's doing something wrong and he doesn't pay attention, I have a religious obligation to tell him at least one more time because the Torah says to me hocheach tochiach. Don't stop at hocheach. You have to try it a second time. Mikol makol, in every situation. Yachol afilu mishtanim panav, very interesting phrase. And I translated it directly without telling you what I think the phrase means because I want to see if you can figure it out. Is it possible that I'm supposed to keep going and rebuking him and rebuking him and rebuking him even though he's not receiving until the point mishtanim panav, that his face changes? What does that mean? What do you think it means? That should I keep rebuking the person until their face changes? Don't think so. Humiliate, right? So if the doubling of hocheach tochiach means I can't get away with just telling someone they did something wrong once, but keep doing it, do I keep doing it? Do I keep doing it? If they get red in the face, if they're still not changing but they're being humiliated, this is where the end of the verse comes in. Talmud Loma, the verse tells you, lo tisa alav chet. Don't bear guilt for the way in which you rebuked him. That's different than don't bear guilt by not rebuking him. Yes, you're obligated to rebuke the person, but if in the process of rebuking the person, you become the ugly thing, you become the unseemly thing, you have switched roles, and you are the sinner.
That always happens, but also, look at the very last sentence that you wrote. Do not bear sin because of that. So it's not rebuking someone because, on a minor thing. It's a major thing you're rebuking them for, right?
Yes.
Do not bear sin.
No, but this Talmud source is using this word sin in the other direction. It's at some point, If you rebuke so persistently and so aggressively, even though you're saying, hey, I'm doing what the Torah is telling me to do, it told me to rebuke. But if you do it in such a way that you now make the other person embarrassed, you're the sinner. You bear the sin,
I've been guilty of that so many times.
as we all have, right? Listen, human nature, society has changed a lot in 2,000 years, but human nature, not so much. Let's pause here because it's a good place to pause. Hi, Vered. Shabbat Shalom. Nice to see you. Hi, Mickey. We're going to do Mincha, and then we'll come back. And speaking of cliffhangers, who knows where this is going to end up? I mean, it's so many directions this could go in. So, Mincha, I have the page numbers.
You're authorized to do it again next week. Very interesting as opposed to some of the.
I'll do it next week. You'll have to join me in Thessaloniki. Alan, do you want to lead Mincha? I didn't bring a towel. I did bring a towel. I got one here. Oh, you can grab it. Okay, Mincha begins on 2:14 in the Lev Shalem, if you're doing the Lev Shalem here, 2:26 in the Slim Shalom, 5:58 in the Sim Shalom. Now, Alan, if you make a mistake while davening, I'm going to have to rebuke you. Once or twice, but gently. 2:14 Mincha. Yes. You can use that, Sigurd? Okay. It's 2:26 in that one.
Yes, it is. Ashrei yoshvei beitecha, od yalu hasela, Shem shalala, Shem shalala, Dila leDavid. Tiladna yedabepi, vivaveka basasha kuchalelam vaed, vanatach yam, et aviadalam, hallelujah, uvaltion goel. ואתה קדוש ושבתי לו ישראל, וקורא זהו זה ואמר, קדוש קדוש קדוש, ענת ולכל הארץ כבודו. ותישאני רוח ושמך חרש גדול, ברוך אדוני ממקומו. אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. תיתנו ליעקב חסד לאברהם, אשר נשבעת לאבותינו מימי קדם. ויבטחו בך ידי שמך, כי לא עזבת דרשך אדוני, אדוני חפץ למען צדקו, יגדיל תורה ויאדיר. יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה, בעלמא דברי קירותי, וימליך באחדותי, בחייכון וביומייכון, ובחיי דכל בית ישראל, בגלל בזמן קריב, אמרו אמן. יהי שמך ברוך, לעולם ולעולמיה. יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתמר ויתנשא, ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתעלה שמי קדושה ברכו. לאלה מגו בחטא בשירתה, תושבתה ונחמתה דמן בעלמא, ואמרו אמן. ואני תפילתי לך אדוני את רצון, אלוהים ברוב חסדך, הנני באמת אישך. ויהי בנצרון, ויאמר משה, קום אדוני רפוץ אוהביך, וינוסו משנאיך מפניך, כי מציון תצא תורה, דבר אדוני מירושלים, ברוך שנתן לעם ישראל, בקדושתו. גדלו אדוני תירו מה שמו יחדיו.
Ho Bashamayim Va'aretz L'chad Ram Mochametz V'chol Rosh Rama Mora Eloheinu Shak V'Lodam V'Kodshu Rama Mora Eloheinu Shak V'Har Kodshu Ki Kadosh Adonai Eloheinu. Okay, we read from the beginning of Parshat Acharei Mot, the first of the two parashot we read next week. Is there anyone present who has a yort site or would like an aliyah for any particular reason? No? The Torah reading, did I give you a page? I did not, right? 679 in the Eitz Chaim Chumash. If you're following from home from a different Chumash, you want Leviticus Vayikra, chapter 16. ותגלה ותראה מלכותו עלינו בזמן קרוב, ויכון פליטתנו פליטת עמו בית שלכם לחסר רחמים לרצון ונאמר אמן. הכל הבו גודל אלוהינו נו כבוד לתורה, תעמוד הרב שושנה בת יוסף ושולה הראשונה ברוך שנתן תורה למשה בקדושתו, ואתם מדביקים לכם חיים חורם היום. Okay.
Baruch et Adonai Hamvarach.
Baruch
Adonai Hamvarach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bachar banu mikol hamim v'natan lanu et torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Vaydaber Adonai el Moshe acharei mot shnei bnei Aharon v'korbatam lifnei Adonai vayamutu. Vayomer Adonai el Moshe daber el Aaron achicha v'al yavo v'cholet el hakodesh mibeit laparochet el bnei hakaporet asher al Haron v'lo yamud ki be'anan era'eh al hakaporet v'zot yavo Aaron el hakodesh Bifar ben bakar lechatat le'echad le'olah Kodabad kodesh yilbash umiknesevad yu al basaro ulav neitvad yachkor uvmisnefet bad yitznof bigdel kodesh heim brachat spamayim et basaro uvesham umeid adat bnei Yisrael yikach Shnei seirei izim lechatat ve'ayel echad le'olah v'hikri v'haron et parchatat asher lo v'chiper ba'ado u'ba'ad beito.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torat emet v'chaye olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Edward, Yamod. Ruvain ben Abraham v'Sarah li'ashniya. Verse 7.
It's right here.
Baruch et Adonai Hamvarach.
Baruch Navarach le'olam
Baruch
va'ed.
Adonai Hamvarach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Amen. V'lakach et shnei ha'seirim ve'emid otam lifnei Adonai petach ha'moed v'natan Aharon al shnei ha'seirim goralot. Good. Goral echad l'Adonai v'goral echad l'Azazel hikriv Aaron et ha'sa'ir asher Allah alav ha'goral l'Adonai v'yasahu chatat v'ha'sa'ir asher Allah alav ha'goral l'Azazel yamod chai lifnei Adonai l'chaper alav l'shalach oto l'Azazel ha'medbara v'hikriv Aaron et parachatat asher lo v'chiper ba'ado u'b'ad beito v'shachat et parachatat asher laho.
Emet. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torat emet וחיי העולם נטע בתוכנו. ברוך אתה אדוני, נותן התורה.
Irv, third Aliyah, Yamod. Yamod. Avram ben Zevu Fruma, Liash Lishit. Did I get that right, Alan? Including the Buma.
Right. That's right.
If you miss that. Baruch Adonai Baruch Baruch Adonai Baruch Le'olam Va'ed Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et torato Baruch Atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. V'lakach mu'amachta. Gachale eish me'al mizbeach milifnei Adonai. Umlo chofnav k'tarat samim daka. Tehevi mibet la parochet. Benatan et katoret al eish lifnei Adonai. V'chisa anan hakatoret et hakaporet. Asher al ha'edut v'lo yamud. V'lakach midam hapar v'hiza v'etzba'o al pnei hakaporet kedma v'lifnei hakaporet yazeh sheva pa'amim min hadam v'etzba'o v'shachat et se'ir achatat asher la'am v'hevi et amo el mibeit laparochet v'asa et amo kasher asa l'dam hapar v'hiza oto al hakaporet lifnei hakaporet V'chiper al hakodesh mitumot b'nei Yisrael u'mipi shehem l'chol chatotam v'chen yaseh li'ohel moed hashochen itam b'tok tumatam v'chol adam lo yeh b'ohel moed b'vo'o l'chaper b'kodesh ad seito v'chiper ba'ado u'vad beito u'vad kol kahal Yisrael.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah temet v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Please rise. Torah is lifted. Ezot HaTorah Asher Sam Hashem Livnei B'nei Yisrael Al Pi Adonai B'yad Moshe Eitz Chaim Hi Lamachazikim Ba Abetomchei Ameushar Eitz Chaim Hi Lamachazikim Ba Abetomchei Ameushar Shalom, Deracheha Darcheinu Am, V'chol Netivoteh Shalom, Back to returning the Sefer Torah to the Ark. It's on page 221 in the Lev Shalem. What is it? 232 in the Slim Shalom. I have the sheet, the other one, but I don't find it right now. Go ahead. Susham Rashechem, Vinasu Bichel, and Melvanized, and I said, give word, I can bring Mohammed, Susham Rashechem, so who be fail, and when I spoke to Melachakava Hotsela, Uvnucho,
Dancing Bob, Telchecha Meoshad, Rechanechen Noam, Achonivet Shalom, Hashivin Vanelecha, Vinashuva, Hadesh Yameinu Kekedem.
Chatzi Kaddish.
Yikadav Yigadash Ve'aba, Ve'ama Diva Kivuti Ve'lich Bachute V'chayechon V'yamecha V'cheducho B'Yisrael, V'yulav Yizman Gavivimu.
Amen. Yehi Shver Baruch Lamaya Barach.
Yibarach V'yishtabach V'yidbar V'yidmar V'yinatzeh V'yitadav V'yidalev V'yidalash V'yidashah
Brechu.
Le'el V'yingo V'ychadav V'yishivata Tushvata V'nechmata Devan V'omavimu. Amen.
The quiet Amidah begins 223 or 234 or 574. It's the waning minutes of Rosh Chodesh. So add in the special Ya'aleh V'yavo paragraph towards the end of the Amidah. Repetition Amidah begins on 223 or 234 or 574. We remain standing through the Kedusha on the next pages.
Kadosh, 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 Anatzva, Beloch Haaretz V'Odod, U'Matzav Baruch Yameru. ברוך כבוד אדוני ממקומו, דברי קודשך כתוב לאמור.
ימלוך לנו ללבו היציון ודור הביאה.
ימלוך אדוני לעולם, אלוהי ציון, לדור ודור, הללויה. לדור אדוני גודלך, לנצח נצח קדושתך נקי,
ושבח אלוהינו.
מגינוי מושל עולם ועד, כי אומר גדול וקדוש אתה, ברוך אתה אדוני, האל הקדוש. עתך ושבחך, מקמך סוגך בארץ, תפארת גדולה, ועטר בישועה. יום מנוחה קדושה לך נתת, אברהם יגע, יצחק ירנן, יעקב ובניו ינוחו בו. מנוחת אהבה ודבר, מנוחת אמת ואמונה, מנוחת שלום ושלווה ופשקי בבטח, מנוחת שלמה שאתה רוצה בה, יכירו בניך, וידעו כי ביתך היא מנוחתם, ועל מנוחתם יקדישו את שמך. אלוהינו ואלוהי אבותינו, את במנוחתנו, שתנו במנוחתך. אלוקינו בתורתך, צווינו בטובך, ושמחנו בישועתך, ותאר ליבנו לרבך באמת. ונביאנו אדוני אלוהינו באהבה ורצון שבת קודשך, ונוחו בה ישראל מקדשי שמך. ברוך אתה אדוני, מקדש השבת. ויצא אדוני אלוהינו, עמך זו את תפילתם, לשבת על ליבי ביתך, תפילתם אהבה ורצון. ותהי רצון תמיד עודת ישראל עמך. אלוהינו ואלוהי אבותינו, יעלה ויבוא ויגיב וירצה וישמע כי ביצעי זיכרוננו וקטוננו, וזיכרון אבותינו וזיכרון משיח בן דוד עבדך, וזיכרון ירושלים וקודשך, וזיכרון כל חווה ישראל לפניך, לכלתה לטובה, לחייל חסרים ולחיים לשלום ויום. ראש החודש הזה, זוכרנו את אלוהינו בו לטובה, וחוקנו בו לברכה, והושיענו בו לחיים. ובדבר ישוע רחמים, חוס ועינינו רחם עלינו, והושיענו כי אליך עינינו, כי אומר חנון רחום אתה, ותחזינה עינינו, ושובך לציון ברחמים. ברוך אתה אדוני, מחסיר שכינתו לציון, מודים אנחנו לך. הטוב כאילו חל רחמך, וכן כאילו תמך חסדך, ועולם קיווינו לך. ועל כל המפרח נמרם שמך מלכנו, תמיד עולם ועד. וכל ידעוך סלע, ויעלו את שמך באמת, הישותנו עזרתנו סלע. ברוך אתה אדוני, הטוב שמך לך נאה להודות. שלום רב ישראל עמך, ועל כל יושבי תורות עשים לעולם. כתוב מלך, אדון לכל השלום, וטוב בעיניך. לברך רמך ישראל בכל עת ובכל שעה בשלומך. ברוך אתה אדוני, ברך דמי ישראל בשלום.
אמן. קדיש שלם.
צדקתך?
No, ראש חודש.
יתגדל ויגדש ברבה,
אמן.
ועמד יברק יותיר נכלכותי בחייכון וביומייכון ובחיי לכל בית ישראל, בגלה בזמן קריב עמו.
אמן. יהי שמיר מבורך לעולם ברא.
יתברך וישתבח יתברך וידמה ויתנצר ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתעלה שבתקודשה.
בריחו.
ואלה מגו ויחדה ושירתה תושבתה ונכבתה דורון ברמה ועמו.
אמן.
גברת פלטון ואחרון לכל ישראל קדם ושמע ועמו.
אמן.
יהי שלום רב מן שמעי וחיים עלינו ולכל ישראל ועמו.
אמן.
עושה שלום ועמו והוא יעשה שלום עלינו ולכל ישראל ועמו.
Amen. Aleinu 231, 248, or 598.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ והיום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד.
Kadisha Tom, Mourner's Kaddish.
יגדל ויקדש שמי רבה.
Amen.
בעלמא דיבה כריתי בעמית מלכותי לחיי חום ויומי חום וחיי דברי ישראל עגלה ובזמן קריב ורמי.
Amen. Yehi Shemei Rabba Mavorach Leolam Leomel Maya.
יתברך וישתבח ויתברך ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שבי קדושה
Brichu.
אלא ויפול ושתה ושירתה ושפחתה ונחמתה ואמירה בעלמא ואמרו אמן. יהי שלום רבה ישמעיה וחיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל אמרו אמן. עושה שלום וממה הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן.
So as I was saying, for those who came in a little bit late, we did part of the learning before Mincha, and we're going to finish the learning now. There should be some sheets out. Should be just about enough for one for everybody. So where we left off, we're in the middle of this Talmudic page in Masechet Arachin that's trying to make sense of each section of the verse in Parshat Kedoshim that says you're not supposed to hate your brother in your heart, and you shall rebuke that person, and you should not bear sin as a result of that person. Okay, so we got to the second source on the second paragraph on the second page, and that's where we'll pick up. Tanya, we have a Braita, we have another piece of material from the Tannaitic era. Amar Rabbi Tarfon, this is the one that Herb was saying before. Tamani ani, it's hard for me to believe. The root tama, taf memhe, means to wonder, but it's sort of like an incredulous wondering. It's hard for me to believe, I'd be surprised. Im yesh bador hazeh, if there's anyone in the entire generation, shemekabel tochacha, that receives rebuke. I don't think he's saying there's no one who actually hears it. I think he's saying there's no one who is able to receive it, right? Remember I began, for those who are here, that even people who say about themselves that they're comfortable about learning about the things they're doing wrong and they want to constantly be on a growth pattern, it's very hard to receive tochacha. Im amarlo, why would it be hard for someone to receive rebuke? Because if someone said to that person, Marlo, tol kesam mi bein einecha, tol, same root as nitilat yadayim. The word nitilat does not actually mean to wash. It means the taking of the hands. It's the drawing of the hands out of the water. In Hebrew grammar, if a root begins with a nun, sometimes the nun falls out in certain forms. So tol is the same as natal. Take out or remove the kesam. It's translated here sometimes as a splinter. It's the modern Hebrew word for a toothpick. You also might know it from an old Israeli camp song. Anyone know the word kesam? Haruach noshevet krira, nosif od kesam lamdura. A stick, like some kindling onto the bonfire. So if someone says to you, take that splinter from between your eyes, Amarlo, the person would say back to him, Tol kore mi bein einecha. You take out the beam between your eyes. Sandra, you're laughing because you're getting the joke, but what do you think is being said here? Why does this make rebuke impossible?
Because since people can't take, they throw it back.
They throw it back, and what's the difference between a splinter and a beam? Right, you're critiquing me that I missed Tzidkatcha, right? You don't even know it was Yom Kippur, right? It's that kind of thing, right? And if you look at Rashi down the second source, on the phrase kesam, splinter,
It makes you defensive.
well, either because it makes you defensive, or it might be legitimate that the person rebuking you is more sinful than you, right? So it's both that it awakens. If someone is attacked, you're going to attack back, and don't throw stones in glass houses, right? Look what Rashi says on that word, on kesam, kolomar, as if to say, this is the source number 4, avon katam shebiyadecha. Someone says, I just want to critique one tiny, small, little miniature almost indescribably small sin that's in your hands. This one's going to say back to him, Ze omer, ze yachol lomar lo, tol ata avon gadol b'shivedecha. I will take care of my small sin after you have worked on all of your big sins. Which one of us would not put ourselves in the category of the second person? We always feel that we're going to be more righteous than the person who's possibly rebuking us. Hilkach, Rashi says something so interesting. Hilkach ein yicholin lehochiach shekulan chotin. He's basically saying it is impossible to do what the Torah commands us to do. It's impossible for there to be a system of rebuke because everyone sins. So on one hand, since everyone sins, you would think, well, that everyone should be subject to rebuke. But because everyone is sinning, I'm aware that the person rebuking me is liable to rebuke. And so the whole system breaks down because bigger than the splinter is the beam, and bigger than the beam is something else. So Rabbi Tarfon says this is really a beautiful verse. It's impossible to live by. Yeah.
I think one of the fascinating things one of the fascinating things about this passage are the words "bedor hazeh." So he's saying, I can't imagine anyone in this day and age being able to give or take rebuke appropriately. And I'm asking myself, is he being humble? Like, is he saying previous generations learned, but we can't? And how is it that he's a time traveling rabbi? Because I would say that about our generation too.
I hadn't focused on the Dor Hazeh. The first time I was reading it, I was reading it as a colloquialism, as if like, I can't imagine anyone in this generation as a way of actually saying anyone in any generation, but it's interesting to linger on that possibility that he's saying, woe to us, that the Torah actually gave us instruction that we should be able to live by, but look around. It's impossible to do it in this generation because everyone is both sinning and thinking that everyone else is sinning more than them. But there might be a society in which this were possible. That's really interesting, Sean. Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah turns it around a bit. Next phrase. Amar Rabbi Elazar, but this is the next phrase in the previous paragraph, the second paragraph, second page. Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah says, you're surprised that nobody can take rebuke? Tamahani or tameni ani im yesh bedor hazeh sheyodei lochiach. I'm surprised that anyone is able to give rebuke. What does it mean by that? Look at Rashi, because that can mean several different things. Does it mean that can't get the words out? Does it mean doesn't feel confident doing so? Source number 5, sheyodei lehochiach, that knows how to rebuke, derach kavod. I don't know anyone. You're blaming the person who can't receive the rebuke. I blame the rebuker. I don't know a single person who knows, according to Rashi, how to give rebuke respectfully, without viciousness, without contempt. The couples therapist John Gottman talks about all different types of relationships and all different types of marriages that can be successful. There are lots of different types, but there are certain aspects in a relationship that if it becomes present, it becomes corrosive. And he says one of them is contempt. You're allowed to be angry. You're allowed to be upset. You're allowed to be disappointed. You're allowed to rebuke your partner. If it goes into contempt, game over. Right? Contempt is very hard to heal from in a marriage, in a friendship, and in any relationship, right? So if you're giving rebuke in such a way that the person is hearing from you not a Torah desire to make your life more holy, but a holier than thou desire that comes off as contempt, it's not your fault for not receiving it, Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah says. It's their fault for not giving it in the right way. Shelo yu panav mishtanin. If you cannot critique without the person's face changing as a result of the critique, you're doing something wrong, not them, right? Steinsaltz, modern Israeli scholar, says it slightly differently. This is verse number 6 on the phrase "Tamani ani sheyesh bedor hazeh mishudei lehochiach." What does it mean that I don't know anyone who knows how to rebuke? Karaui, appropriately. Rashi says bekabod, with honor or respect. Steinsaltz tells appropriately. Below halbanat panim, without the whitening of the face, that's a phrase for embarrassment. Udvarav mitkablim. What is the proof that you have given rebuke successfully? Right, and that the person took it.
As someone who's respectfully rebuked many times, I say I appreciate what you've told me.
So if, right. So if someone can say back to you without crying or being embarrassed, I'm grateful for that rebuke, that's a successful rebuke, right? Right. Sometimes, by the way, if you're really extra menschy, you try to say that even if the person didn't rebuke you respectfully. I do that every day of my rabbinate. And we talk about that, Rabbi, like how do you receive feedback that may or may not have been given with kavod in a way that allows the situation to go forward, because you actually want to be, you actually want someone to feel like they're comfortable giving you a rebuke. I tell that to our staff and to our interns all the time. Act in a way that a person will feel that for them to give you not angry rebuke, but to give you feedback that you're hungry for it, because that sets up a healthy relationship of learning and of trust. Okay. Last little piece of that Arachin, source 7. Amar Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri. These are all sages who lived around the same time in the land of Israel. Me'id ani alei shamayim. Shamayim aretz. I call upon the heavens and earth as my witnesses. I mean, there are these phrases throughout language in all generations. You know, like may God be. It's the words. May God be my witness. Sheharbe pamim laka Akiva al yadi. Many times Akiva, who, as Rabbi Roth would say, was no nachschlepper. Rabbi Akiva was a significant person. Many times he was, what does luka or laka mean? He was whipped. He was lashed on my account. Why? Shayiti kovel alav, because I critiqued him. Lifnei Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel. I told on him, I tattled. I told Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel, your disciple Akiva is not acting the right way. Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel brought him into his office. He told him what he was doing wrong. And either he was whipped because he violated a Torah law that's the punishment, or this is a way of saying that he was emasculated, or not even emasculated. He was taken to task by Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel, right? So Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri says, I admit it. A lot of times Rabbi Akiva had to bear the brunt of the rebuke was because I let the master know what was going wrong. V'kol shekain shehosafti bo ahava. And what I experienced, he's saying, and I swear that the heavens and the earth are my witnesses, that as a result of that, he loved me more. There was more love between us, not less. He thanked me for alerting me to the things that I was doing wrong, telling my mentor so that my mentor could share the rebuke with me, hopefully bechavod, and he made me love me more, not less. Lekayem mashin amar, to establish or to fulfill that which it says in the book of Proverbs, al tochiach latz penis sanacha, v'hocheach lachachem v'ye'avacha. Do not rebuke a scorner because they're not going to take it. Rebuke a wise person and he will love you. Right? So if you try to fulfill this mitzvah, if either side of the equation on this mitzvah is not in a category of scorner, then it's going to be a scornful rebuke. The person won't hear it, or the person's not willing to hear even good rebuke. But a wise person wants it, is hungry for it. A wise person reads Parshat Kedoshim and says, God wants my fellow to tell me when I'm doing something wrong. Thank you, and I mean it, not a cynical thank you. Which leads me, I started this shiur by saying I wanted to look at 2 verses. We want to look at 1 verse. The next verse, after this one that says, don't hate your brother in your heart, but rather rebuke him. The next verse is a very famous verse. In fact, it's a verse that Akiva, whom we spoke about before, said was klal gadol b'Torah, a great principle in the Torah. We normally quote the second half of the verse. The whole verse is interesting. Lo tikom, don't take vengeance. That's the root nikama, the nun is gone. Lo titor, don't bear a grudge et b'nei amecha, upon the people of your community. Why? V'ahavta l'reacha kamocha. Love your fellow like you love yourself. And then an interesting punctuation, ani Adonai. One of the ways in which I continue to be God in the world is by you having relationships with others, where you are open to rebuke and open to give them a rebuke. You do it b'chavod. You don't bear a grudge. You don't bear the person's sin either by not telling something they were doing something wrong or doing it so harshly that they embarrass themselves. And that if you love yourself enough to try to improve yourself, you should love your neighbor enough to have them be improved. And if you love yourself enough so as not want to embarrass yourself, then don't ever do that to a neighbor. There is a sort of platonic way in which this can happen, right? It's so rare, But the Torah is an aspirational document. The Torah is something for us to try to achieve, no matter how hard it is, because it is hard. And in that way, we all rise together. Shabbat Shalom. We will go to Kaddish Rabbanan, and then Tom, you want to lead Mariv? Okay. Kaddish Rabbanan is, one second. In the Lev Shalem, which is the one in front of us, it's on page 38. That's the only one I have right here. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah v'alma divrach hirutei v'amlich malchutei v'chayechon v'yomechon v'chayei dechol beit Yisrael v'agala v'yizman kariv v'yimru amen. Yehei shemei Rabbah mvorach leolam leomel maya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitrumam v'yitnaseh. Yithadar, Yitale, Yitalal, Shemei Kudasha, Brichu, Le'ela, Minko, Birchata, Bishirata, Jujbechata, Benechamata, Amiran, Be'alma, B'yimru, Amen. Al Yisrael, Bi'al Rabbanan, Bi'al Tamidehon, Bi'al Kol Tamidehon, Bi'al Kol Man, Da'askin Be'oraita, Di V'ashra Hadain, B'di B'chol Atar V'atar. Yehei lahon ulchon shlama rabba china v'chista v'rachamin v'chayin arichin umzona revicha uforkana min kodam abuhon divishmaya v'imru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya v'chayim tovim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom imramav urach shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. And if you have any pointers for how I led that shiur, I'm open to all of your feedback. We rise for Mariv on page 264 in the Lev Shalom, 281 in the Slim Shalom, 200 in the Sim Shalom. And we should do Birkat Hamazon. Thank you. I totally forgot because I didn't eat bread. Did you eat bread, Marshall? Lo beshuva Adonai shiva. So close.
Ushonenu rina, as yomru
Goyim hidil Adonai lasotimei, hidil Adonai lasotimanu hayinu semechim. Shuva Adonai et shivitenu ka'afikim ba'negev hazorim bedima berina yikzoru haloich lechu v'cho nosei meshech hazara bo yavo berina nosei alumotav.
Chavirai nevarech.
Yishem Adonai v'rachmetav yadolam.
Yishem Adonai v'rachmetav yadolam. Birshut chavirai nevarech Eloheinu she'chalnu mishelo.
Baruch Eloheinu she'chalnu mishelo v'tuvo chayinu.
Baruch Eloheinu she'chalnu mishelo v'tuvo chayinu. Baruch Shemo. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Azan et ha'olam kulo b'tuvo v'chein b'chesed u'vrachamim u'noten lechem lechol basar ki le'olam chasto u'v'tuvo hagadol tamid lo chasar lanu v'yayachsar lanu ma'azan le'olam v'oet ba'avur shemo hagadol ki u'elzanu parnes lachol Umetiv lakol umechin ma'azon lechol briot asher bada baruch atah Adonai hazan et hakol. 63. Migdal Yeshua Ma'akov Yosef Chesed V'Mshicha L'Davidu Sarov Adonai Oseh Shalom B'Olam Hu Ya'aseh Shalom Aleinu V'Al Kol Yisrael
Amen. Shkoyach to Marshall, and now we'll begin Mariv on page 264, 281, or 200. Please rise.
והוא רחום יכפר עוון ולא ישחית בהיר, בא להשיב אפו ולא יאיר כל קמתו, אדוני הושע המלך יעננו ויום קוראנו. ברכו את אדוני המבורך. ברוך אדוני המבורך לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני. ומעביר יום ובין לילה ומבדיל בין יום ובין לילה אדוני צבאות שמו אל וקיים תמיד ימלוך עלינו לעולם ועד ברוך אתה אדוני המריב ערבים. ואהבתך אל תסיר ממנו לעולמים ברוך אתה אדוני אוהב עמו ישראל. שמע ישראל אדוני אלוהינו אדוני אחד. Adonai Elohechem Emet. Umalchutav ratzon kivlu alehem Moshe uMiriam u'bnei Yisrael lechanu shira b'simcha raba v'amru chulaham. V'kamocha bo'elim Adonai me'kamocha nedar b'kodesh norati lo tosef elem. Adonai yimlok le'olam va'ed ונאמר כיפת אדוני יעקב וגאלו מיד חזק ממנו ברוך אתה אדוני גאל ישראל השיבנו אדוני אלינו לשלום. ושמור צאתנו ובואנו לחיים ולשלום מעתה ועד עולם ברוך אתה אדוני שומר עמו ישראל לעד. ברוך אדוני לעולם אמן ואמן. ברוך אדוני. כי המלכות שלך היא ולמעט תמלוך בכבוד כי אין לנו מלך אלא אתה ברוך אתה אדוני המלך בכבודו תמיד ימלוך עלינו לעולם ועד ועל כל מעשיו. יקרא ויקרא שמי רבה, ואלמד יברח ירתה וימליך מלכותה וחייכון וימכון וחיי לכל בית ישראל בגלה בזמן קריב ימרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מברך לעולם ומעלמיה. יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם וינשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ותהלל שמי לקודשה בריחו לילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה תושבחתה ונחמתה תמירן בעלמא וימרו אמן.
Kaddish 279, 292, or 682.
יקרא ויקרא שמי רבה, ואלמד יברח ירתה וימליך מלכותה בחייכון וימכון וחיי לכל בית ישראל בגלה בזמן קריב ימרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מברך לעולם ומעלמיה. יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם וינשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ותהלל שמי לקודשה בריחו לילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה תושבחתה ונחמתה תמירן בעלמא וימרו אמן.
279 for Vayihinom, or 292 in the Slim Shalom. Sorry, 294. 292 in the Slim Shalom, 682 Sim Shalom. Vihinom, Adonai Eloheinu, Lina Masedene Konone, Masedene Konone,
יקראני בעיניהו עמו אנוכי בצרה אחת שאהו ואחדהו אורך ימים עזביהו ואורהו בישועתי אורך ימינו עזבינו ויראהו בישועתי.
Back to 216 in the Lev Shalem, second paragraph.
קדוש השם שלו חוזר זה ויאמר קדוש 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 אדוני ישראל מלך מלך כבודו. תישאני רוח ואשמע אחרי כל ראש גדול. אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. יבטחו בך יודע שמך כי לא עזבת דורשך אדוני אדוני חפץ למען צדקו יגדיל תורה ויאדיר.
Kaddish Shalem 280 or 294 or 688.
יקדע ויקדע שמי רבה ואלמד יברך ירתה וימליך מלכותי בחייכון וימכון ובחייך בישראל בעגלה בזמן קריב וימרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מברך לעולם עמי ומיה יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתומם וינעשה ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתעלה שמי לקודשה בריחו לילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה תושבחתה ונחמתה דמירן ביומה וימרו אמן. תתקבל צלתון ובאתון דכל ישראל קדם ובהון די וישמעיה וימרו אמן. יהי שלום הרבה מן שמיה וחיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל וימרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל וימרו אמן.
Rise for Aleinu.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל. כתוב בתורת החיים מלוך לעולם ועד ונאמר ביד כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אחד ושמו אחד.
Kaddish Atom, Mourner's Kaddish 282, 298, 698.
יתקדל ויתקדש שמי רבה ואלמד יברך קירותי וימליך מלכותי בחייכון וביומכון ובחיי דכל בית ישראל בעגלה ובזמן קריב ואמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מברך לעולם עמי ומיה יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי לקודשה בריחו לילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה תושבחתה ונחמתה דמירן בעלמה ואמרו אמן. יהי שלום הרבה מן שמיה וחיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן.
Yes, sir. We do it right now because I forgot. Thank you so much. Look how kindly you did that. My face hasn't changed at all. What page is the Omer on? 63 in the Lev Shalem. 56 in the Sim Shalom. Hineni muchanum zuman, hineni muchanum zuman, hineni muchanum zuman, hineni muchanum mukhanum zuman lekayei mitzvat taseh hineni mukhanum zuman shel sfirat haomer hineni mukhanum zuman usfartem lachem mimacharat hashabbat hineni mukhanum zuman miyom aviachem edom rathnufa hineni mukhanum zuman sheva shabbatot tmimot tihiena ad mimocharat hashabbat hashvi'i tisperu chamishim yom. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kedishanu mitzvotav b'tzivanu al sfirat haomer. Hayom shmona
Yesterday was 16.
Hayom shiva asar yom shehem shnei shavuot ushlosha yamim la omer. Today are 17 days, which are 2 weeks and 3 days of the Omer. Thank you, Alan. Okay, please rise. Well, you don't have to rise if you want to. Havdalah. If someone can get the lights, that would be great. Inel Yeshuati, Ki Yosef Ezimrad Adonai Vayehili Leshua, Ushavtem Ayim Besason, Mimanei Yeshua, Ladonai Yeshua, Alamcha Berchatecha Sela, Adonai Tzvaot Imanu Miskav Lanu Elohei Yaakov Sela Adonai Tzevaot Ashrei Adam Botei Abach Adonai Yoshia Amelech Yaneinu Ve'yom Kor La Yehudim Haita Ora Vesimcha Vesason V'yekar Kein Tiyeh Lanu Kos Yeshuot Esa Uv'shem Adonai Ekra Yainanai Adonai Nai Ainanai Ananai Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei pri hagafen Baruch atah Adonai melech haolam borei minei besamim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei miorei ha'esh. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam mavdil ben kodesh l'chol ben or l'choshev ben Yisrael amim min yom hashvi l'sheshimei hamaseh. Baruch atah Adonai hamavdil ben kodesh l'chol. Hamavdil ben kodesh l'chol. Chatoteinu yimcho. Zareinu v'chaspeinu yarbe yarbe kacho v'kahakochavim balayla. Zareinu v'chaspeinu yarbe yarbe kacho v'kahakochavim balayla. Eliyahu Hanavi, Eliyahu Atishbi, Eliyahu Hanavi, Eliyahu Agiladi, Eliyahu Hanavi, Eliyahu Atishbi, Eliyahu Hanavi, Eliyahu Agi. Abimeira Yavo Eleinu, Imashiach ben David, Bimeira Yavo Eleinu. Mashiach ben David. Shavua Tov, a good vach, a sweet week, wonderful week, everybody.
And I know you were looking right at me sometimes.
What's that?
Said you must have been looking right at me sometimes. Said, no, I'm joking. I'm joking. I'm joking. But I overheard someone today in library menu talking to somebody else, saying that when she was sick, that her whole life she never would have gone on the computer during Shabbat, but her neshama needed to be here, and she went on the Zoom because her neshama needed that more. So I know I've been on the other side of that, so I wanted to share that with you.
Thanks, Sandra. Thank you. I appreciate that. This is it's still hard to navigate because not everyone evolves in the same direction and at the same pace, and so we have to be embracing of lots of different approaches. I mean, that's one of the nice things that I'd like to preserve about this community is it can be a home for people on many different places in the observance culture. So I appreciate those words.
Anyway, so I wanted to share that because when I overheard that, I thought about our discussions, obviously. So
Thanks, Sandra. Appreciate
you're
it.
welcome.
Shavua tov.
Shavua tov.
I am, yes. You're walking?
It kills me to have to wake up that early on a Sunday, but.
It's her journey with her son, and then what she learned, and what she thinks parents need to know.
Yeah, it's a tough one.
Don Lalo, el agua.